Emerald Kaizo is a bad hack. Seriously, I like me some challenge. Enjoy stuff like From Software games tremendously. But this is just unbalanced to the point of being unfair and most of all, not fun. Played the OG Dark Rising, noticed it has some Kaizo variant, and found it much better, even though with some of the faults it has. Gym leaders use TM moves at the point of the game where some mons have access to stuff that hits for 40 base damage. Also, starters for some reason require billions of XP, and some stuff gives much less of it than originally. Don't let me start on the encounter rate, which started getting funny lately. Just beat the 3rd gym. But it is kind of whatever, not like I'm playing at original speed. What really got me is that for some reason the Mon who learns Flamethrower first by level is fucking Remoraid! At that point I just decided to cheat me some TMs and stuff to rant here. Don't know if I'll finish it. With the occasional yawn or hypnosis, movesets typically end up being 4 offensive moves because the creator didn't like how most non-attacking moves cheese the AI. I feel like I'm back to playing Pokemon when I was 8 years old, and if a move does not deal damage, it is automatically useless. Just an unorganized list of unavailable moves. No access to Taunt. Very limited access to status moves like Toxic, Will-O-Wisp, and Thunder Wave. Grass types don't get Leech Seed. Very limited access to stat-changing moves like Swords Dance and Growl. Limited access to recovery, mainly because limited natural distribution in Gen 3 though. It's Gen 3, so Volt Switch, U-Turn, Toxic Spike, Stealth Rock don't exist, but Baton Past is post-game. Weather moves like Sunny Day are post-game. Substitute and Protect are post-game. Most are understandably unfair towards the AI, but as a result of trying to uncheese fights, people end up just needing to catch the perfect answer and grinding it via daycare, either looking up enemy team beforehand or scouting and whiting out and reloading the save. Personally, I think Emerald Kaizo's difficulty is poorly designed in terms of being enjoyable, and the overworld changes to make life unnecessarily inconvenient is stupid. Poorly designed in terms of being enjoyable. You don't enjoy it, therefore it's poorly designed? There's some major problems with EK, but that's not it, lol. I hate the reworked movesets. Everything that's not an attacking move is removed. They removed almost every interesting strategy in the name of preventing cheese, but they don't add any other meaningful strategies to compensate. He removed boosting because it's unfair, but never adds any other meaningful strategy that could be like it, sacrificing a turn now for profits later. So it ends up being bare bones game, which your only strategy is brute force. The difficulty is fine. I love his Pokemon choices for leaders and bosses. I just wish I had actual strategies to deal with the wonderful world he created instead of using the strategy as like playing like a 6-year-old again. Damage good, no, damage bad. That's not the kind of difficulty everyone wants though. I think it's funny to describe it like that. It doesn't just refuse to hold the player's hand, the game shoves the player into the mud and presses his foot onto the back of the player's head. Oh, does the little baby player not like the taste of mud? Then get my foot off your head. Come on, you can do it. My issue with Kaizo is how repetitive it was. So many stall teams and baits. I really wanted a challenging game to play and it certainly met the expectation. Just wasn't extremely enjoyable. I quit at Victory Road because I just couldn't deal with how annoying it felt anymore. Watching people play it is more enjoyable than playing it yourself for me. Pokemon Challenges literally used a patch to modify Emerald Kaizo to make it less grindy, and hacked in rare candies if I recall correctly. It's a bad hack. My argument is that Emerald Kaizo is a frustratingly grindy game. This is one of the primary elements which detract from the experience. Pokemon Challenges, who you choose to use to support your argument, modified the game in several ways to eliminate the grind from Emerald Kaizo. That is a factual statement. The fact that you used a terrible example to support your position doesn't make my argument faulty. For a great example of how Emerald Kaizo plays unmodified, look at the early attempts by Mr. Ding Dong Games. A sweet scent user is next to necessary to play the game due to the terrible encounter rate. It's a tedious bore. Emerald Kaizo is only rendered playable thanks to altering the ROM via patch or cheats and liberal use of fast forward. Its gameplay is awful without those features. You weren't supposed to grind in Emerald Kaizo. SHF tried to keep the level curve at a steady pace. When you grind a lot, you overlevel, defeating the whole purpose of the challenge. Agreed, it's not very good and thought throw hack. It's not gonna get any better, trust me. Kaizo are not interesting, difficult hacks. Instead of creating strategic challenges, it's just creating a scenario, then removing 95% of the strategic ways around it, and as time goes on, this only gets worse and worse. Look at Radical Red for some real challenge. Reminds me of Radical Red when it's only one mode. It's really bad. Unnecessarily hard. Having played both, no, they're nothing alike. Radical Red gives you all the tools to beat upcoming challenges in many different ways, fairly. Emerald Kaizo has hidden power paralyze you and then calls it a day. I think Kaizo games are very lazy, but since Pokemon fans want difficulty, they take them as holy grails. Yeah, Kaizo is trash, I agree 3. Playing through Radical Red, I think is doing similar thing with difficulty, but it actually is good, like very good in places. Kaizo is just lazy bad. I respect people nuzlocking this boring crap, but it doesn't change the fact that it is just bad. Totally agreed, Emerald Kaizo is difficult for the sake of it. Doesn't provide any quality of life changes. All changes are there to make the game more difficult, unlike other games like Radical Red. Finally tried Kaizo Emerald, and I hate to say that it sucks. This is why I'm never playing Pokemon Kaizo games, because they are just way too stupidly hard. There's a difference between genuine difficulty and the ROM dev essentially rigging the game against you in RNG elements or things you can't possibly control or predict on a first try. I personally think all the Kaizo hacks suck. They're just not fun and not a fun concept. They're difficult to do, frustrating, obnoxious design, not actual challenge. I started playing Kaizo. It's not really hard per se, but just extremely tedious. Being forced to go back to center after every trainer is just boring. Unbound Radical Red Drayano hacks are much more satisfying. There's a difference between difficulty and monotony. I just don't feel like this game has that balance. I literally wasted like 4 hours of my time just grinding so that I could have a chance against the enemy trainers. It doesn't help that the wild Pokemon seem to be entirely overpowered. My Pokemon is level 13 and I can still get two-shotted by a level 7 using Pound of all things. That same wild Pokemon, the Jigglypuff in Route 104, can also put your Pokemon to sleep, so good luck killing the thing. If any wild Pokemon crit you, that Pokemon is one shot. EK is bad because Roxanne doesn't have a Regirock or Aerodactyl. I'd really like to see a hack where with the most BS of BS possible on every team, even worse than Bloody Red.